Hi, I'm Robert Reich. And the issue I want to talk about today with you is why Americans are more bitterly divided now than we have been in almost 80 years. I mean, look at, by almost every measure, we're more contemptuous of every major institution, government, business, the media. We're more convinced the nation is on the wrong track. We're far more polarized. Political scientists say that the gap between the median Republican voter and the median Democratic voter is wider today on a whole host of issues than it's been at least since the 1920s. So again, the question is, why the anger? Why the dissonance? Undoubtedly, social media play a part. They allow people to pop off without bearing much responsibility for what they say, and they let most of us cocoon within virtual or real communities whose members confirm all of our biases and all of our assumptions. And meanwhile, cable news and Yale radio compete for viewers and listeners, often by being ever more strident. It's also true that we have lost most living memory of an era in which we were all in it together, the Great Depression and World War II, when we succeeded or failed together. In those years, we were palpably dependent on one another, and we understood how much we owed each other as members of the same society. I mean, social solidarity in the Great Depression and World War II was something people understood intuitively. And yet I think the deeper explanation for what has happened has economic roots. From the end of World War II through the late 1970s, the U.S. economy doubled in size, as did almost everybody's income. Almost all Americans grew together. In fact, those in the bottom fifth of the income ladder saw their incomes more than double. Inequality actually shrank. Americans experienced upward mobility on a grand scale. And yet, for the last 3.5 decades, the middle class has been losing ground, as have the poor. The median wage of male workers is now lower than it was in 1980, if you adjust for inflation. And meanwhile, income, wealth, and power have become more and more concentrated at the top, more concentrated than they have been in 90 years. And so it's not surprising that as a result of all of this, many people have come to believe that the deck is stacked against them. Importantly, both the Tea Party and the Occupier movements began with the bailouts of Wall Street, when both groups concluded that big government and big finance had essentially plotted against the rest of us. The former blamed government, the latter blamed Wall Street, but basically it was the same populist revolt against what seemed to be collusion. Political scientists have also discovered a high correlation between inequality and political divisiveness. The last time America was this bitterly divided was in the 1920s, which was the last time income, wealth, and power were this concentrated. You see, when average people feel the game is rigged, naturally they get angry. And that anger can easily find its way into deep resentments. Resentments of the poor, of blacks, of immigrants, of unions, of the well-educated, of government. This should not be surprising. Demagogues throughout history have used anger to target scapegoats, thereby dividing and conquering and distracting people from the real sources of their frustrations. Make no mistake, the savage inequality America is experiencing today is deeply dangerous.